to another episode of the Caffeinated Librarians. Ben's gonna be a little late, but it'll be like a little surprise entrance, guest appearance, great stuff. But we're joined with everybody again.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hello. See how it is, don't talk.
I said woohoo.
So, April is the month of Shakespeare's birthday. And so...
How old would Shakespeare have been this month?
You know...
If he had lived...
He was born April 26, 1564.
1864?
1564.
Oh, that makes much more sense.
He would be...
So he'd be really old.
Ready? I'm going to do
a couple
some
thousand,
math.
maybe.
It's funny, and he also died in April as well, which is very interesting. He died the month he was born, which is...
Mark Twain
Was it
type
1564?
situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would have been
We're getting you numbers.
458 years old.
So he probably wouldn't have been alive.
No.
Unless he's a vampire, which, you know...
Hey, it could happen.
It could happen. But we thought we'd celebrate the month of April and the month of Shakespeare's birth by talking about some of our favorite, Shakespearean plays. And today we're going to be kind of diving into the quintessential Shakespeare play, which is Romeo and Juliet. There have been several movie adaptations, several, more recently, some of the more modern versions of it have been like things like West Side Story takes inspiration from Romeo and Juliet. Probably one of the more modern day Romeo and Juliets we've seen, unless there's one that has not come to my attention because no one's done Romeo and Juliet in quite a couple years.
China Girl by Abel Ferrara, more recent setting than West Side Story, at least.
Oh, there you go. See, I don't know that one. But it's on the list now. So let's get down to brass tacks. There have been several movies. Do you guys have a favorite adaptation of Romeo and Juliet?
Honestly, I like the Baz Luhrmann one.
Agreed.
It uses the original text. That always wins me over. The setting's real goofy and wild. And I don't know, just really wacky production design all around, and some inspired performances in there. So
And it had Claire Danes before Claire Danes became annoying. Like when you watch her on Homeland, like she does this thing with the corners of her mouth where they like move weird to me.
And it has.
She also is an ugly crier, and
Yeah, maybe
this
that's what
movie
it
only
is.
solidified it is that
Yeah.
her big, the big death scene at the end. She cries and she does. I'm like, I'm an ugly crier, so I can recognize an ugly crier.
And
She
cries a lot in Homeland.
She's got. I saw a couple scenes, and I honestly refused to watch it because she's in it, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm gonna have to see her ugly cry.
It's got Leo when he was still annoying. So.
You think Leonardo DiCaprio is annoying?
Well, like 90s Leo. He hadn't yet blossomed,
This little punk kid thinks he's a hotshot,
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's good energy for Romeo.
Yeah.
Especially this rendition of Romeo. Yes.
Yeah, wearing a Hawaiian shirt, listening to Radiohead all sad. That's...
Yeah, writing poetry by the beach on a cloudy day.
Also, gotta shout out all the Radiohead in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny that exit music for a film is for this movie.
Well, since, you mentioned the ugly crying, I was watching behind the scenes and Baz Luhrmann was talking about it, and he was saying that he kind of felt that Claire Danes really went all with it. She was her very raw performance, so it's funny how you don't think so. But he thought it was a very raw, natural performance, and I think he liked that she wasn't, he says, I liked she wasn't trying to be pretty when she cried.
I like...
True.
Definitely not.
Sure,
I like
she's
Claire
definitely
Danes
not.
in this one.
Not when
So-
she cries.
Yeah.
I liked her except for the crying.
Yeah, and also because I was watching a lot of behind the scenes for this film. Claire Danes was 17 when she shot this film. So because of her age, she had a very restricted time on which she could be on set. So Baz Luhrmann was talking about the pool scene when Juliet is having her monologue, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo, and then Romeo sneaks up on her, and they fall into the pool. So he actually built the pool for the scene, and because she could only be a limited time, they had to shoot it really quickly because he wanted to use all the time he had while she was on set. And then another thing that I found was very interesting, the scene where Mercutio dies and Romeo was holding him, the wide shot of them, there was an actual hurricane that day. But Baz Luhrmann said, we're already here, we're shooting this. So they shot the scene, and any close-up scenes where they're close up and he's crying with Mercutio's body, that was shot on a set. But the wide shot scenes, there was an actual hurricane. The actual set was completely destroyed after they left. So it's authentic winds, people. It was a real hurricane had touched
Quite
down.
the tempest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mercutio in this one also rocks very hard.
He's one of my favorite renditions of Mercutio because, as I said, one of my favorite parts of Romeo and Juliet is always his monologue, his big monologue before the big party, the Queen Maid, because it's it foreshadows the entire play of everything he says, and it's basically just calling Romeo out for being dumb and stupid. And he's like, you know what you're really after. You're not after love. Get out of here, child. He's also saying that, like, love doesn't exist because it's all just a fantasy and it's a made-up thing. And I really like his pessimism told in a very, very obscure sense when he starts talking about, like, the mythology of, like, the British fairy tales and stuff like that. Queen Maid riding her, like, what is it, walnut shell and stuff like that, floating into lovers' heads as they dream and stuff like that. And he does such an interesting rendition of it. It's a drugged up take of it, definitely. Yeah. But I really like that because the fingerwork, especially when he pulls the pill out on his finger, I'm like, the handwork and everything and his movements for that particular monologue were just so well done. Yeah. And he's such a weird, goofy character. He's not supposed to be, like, incredibly goofy, but it's very interesting to see him go that route but still be a serious, like, probably one of the best characters I think, written in Shakespeare plays in general. He's one of my favorites that I like to point out.
Yeah. I mean, Baz Luhrmann's rendition of Romeo and Juliet is very different from the other versions of Romeo and Juliet. And I used to like that movie. I thought it was one of my favorites. But watching it...
She said but.
Watching it recently, it's like... Yes, I appreciate the fact that they kept the language of Shakespeare, which is always good. And I don't mind the fact that it's set in modern time because Shakespeare, in any of Shakespeare's plays, there's no time setting. It's very ambiguous of time and all that other stuff. But the chemistry between Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, for me, was not believable.
I would agree with you there because... Getting kind of like going deeper into like the reading of Romeo and Juliet, there's a difference between it's difference of love and how they both portray it. You have basically, so just to clarify, when people talk about courtly love and chivalry, it's not exactly how we view it today. It's way different than like, chivalrous being like, staying loyal and like, so that's not what chivalry meant. That's not what chivalry meant.
It was
what does it mean?
Much worse to women.
Yes, it was incredibly. So when you look at the way that Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet's characters separately, and you can kind of see it in the scene when they first meet and they talk about how Romeo wants to kiss her, and she's basically like, "No, go away." Yeah. Romeo speaks as if he is lusting. That's all he is. There's like agape and eros. He's eros. In this sense in which it's sexual love. He's not looking for an actual relationship. He's courting people.
He's trying to smash. And you can see it pined with Rosaline. Yeah. And he literally pines. She basically tells him the reason he's upset is literally because she didn't end the relationship. She ended the fact that any chances with her having sex with her is gone because she's going to a nunnery. Yeah. She's giving her body to God. And he's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? She's not gonna give me her virginity, and this is upsetting. Yeah. So he's literally a playboy. So in that point, I think Leonardo DiCaprio did a pretty good job of being the playboy aspect of the whole thing. Yes. But Juliet and Claire Danes they tried to make her very innocent. But I don't think that's entirely her character. No, it's because she's in religious love. She is in the whole like. She's like the opposite side of the whole thing. She's looking for the emotion, and she's looking for loyalty, and she's looking for all sorts of stuff, and she's educated. Yeah. So if you actually read the play slowly, you'll notice that Romeo's language is very poetic, but Juliet's way of speaking is more educated. And the way that she talks as if, like, you know, you're reading old scriptures and texts of, like, educational material. And she's just like, well, if I do this and blah, blah, blah. And he's over here, like, pining for love.
Yeah.
And
He's pining for something.
Oh, yeah, he's pining for a lot of things. Hence why he's got to get married to that.
Yeah.
Secretly.
So, like, to my point of that chemistry being off for me, it then throws off the entire movie, because you're watching the movie, yes, for the other characters, but mostly for Romeo and Juliet, because that's what the play surrounds. And when that chemistry is off, it throws off the entire tone of the movie.
Exactly.
So this is why I liked Romeo and Juliet from 2013, because their chemistry was at least believable. I mean, yes, the speaking was...
Before we went into the podcast, I had some opinions about the 2013 Romeo and Juliet movie,
Right.
so this is where this
Right. Yes, the speak was abbreviated, and they did speak quickly with the wording, but the anguish that Romeo portrays when he kills Tybalt and when he's banished is so believable.
Banished.
Yeah. That, you know,
Love how they said things back then.
I mean, I nearly started to cry with him because I believed his anguish. And I want to say, like, to some extent as well, the movie from the 1960s as well, although it was very dramatic.
I kind of like the Zeffirelli one. It's got
It's
good
the one
60s
that when you
Shakespeare
watch, when your like
Yeah.
teacher makes you watch one,
Yes.
that's the one they make you watch.
Yeah.
And the outfits, it's like, I think are more historically accurate, but they're still a little funny to watch. They're like leotards, and you're just like, oh.
Well, it is fairly more historically accurate for the time setting they're basing the movie in, so
Yes.
I appreciate that immensely. So, I mean, but like in the 1968 version, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I believe that they continue with the Shakespearean language.
Yes.
They're very faithful to that, and it's the again, going back to the chemistry between the actors who portrayed Romeo and Juliet respectively, it's all believable, even though it's overtly dramatized because of the time period and because of what they're playing. It's still very much, I think, believable.
It's also crazy how much the dude in the 60s one looks like Zac Efron. Like, Zac Efron was real big when I was in high school.
I have
so
a
when
picture
we watched that,
of him,
everyone was
Lou.
like, what is going on?
I think
The guy is Leonard Whiting.
Yeah, Leonard
The
Whiting.
original actor does not look that way annianymore.
Well, yeah.
'Cause he got
He's
older.
probably like in his 80s now.
He got a little older.
But the girl who played
Does
Juliet
that-
is gorgeous
Yeah.
still.
That's good. Well, that's good to
Go
know.
back and just go to like the images for. Yeah, look at that.
Hey, yeah, he does. Wow, he really does.
And Michael
Yeah.
York played Tybalt.
Yes, and I thought I also thought that his rendition of Tybalt was very good. Like because the first movie I ever saw of Romeo and Juliet was that movie. And yes, we saw it in high school, in English high school. But
Olivia Hussey aged very well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I thought, like, because when we after we read it, you know, and listened, of course we listened to it while we read it.
Yeah.
My image of Tybalt was how Michael York played Tybalt, that hothead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But
he's the
not-
kind of the hothead who clearly is very loyal to his family
Yeah.
and also to Juliet since they've grown up together. I think
Right.
is supposed to be what they are. They're supposed to be
Yeah.
very close
Yeah,
as relatives.
yeah. So I definitely got that from his rendition. The actor who portrayed Tybalt in the 2013 Romeo and Juliet.
Ed Westwick.
Thank you, Ed Westwick.
So handsome.
He is handsome. He's very handsome.
Very brooding.
Yes.
Yeah, but and I felt that they definitely portrayed that loyalty between him and Juliet as cousins being very close. But I also felt like the way he portrayed him, they portrayed him with a lot of anger, and I think too angry to the point where it was almost a little comical. But that's
I'm missing out.
Yeah.
Now I gotta go back and rewatch it.
I think you should. I think you should rewatch it.
He's a very handsome man that wears mostly black, which is like my kryptonite. I love.
He's the Black Knight. Well, it was funny because watching the
watch it just
movie,
for that.
it didn't start off the way that all other Romeo and Juliet movies started. It was like a jousting scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, jousting. But I was like, wasn't how it.
No.
I'm a stickler. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm more of a stickler of accuracy.
Yeah.
Of like settings or things going on around them. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but as long as it's like, oh, he sat along this way, because they do have stage directions and stuff like that, and sometimes it translates differently to movies. And I don't mind that. But the opening to the 2013 Romeo and Juliet was who played Capulet? Who played the Lord Capulet?
That was Daniel Lewis.
Yes, he looked familiar. I was like, isn't that the guy from Home?
Also, I was going to say, another
Claire Danes
Homeland.
But I was like, oh, he's playing Daddy Capulet. Okay. And he looks so excited.
He's another one with his mouth is just so small. That
Yeah,
when
he smiles, he's
speaks-
like-
Yeah, I'm like...
But he
can't look at
also
him seriously.
like that scene where Juliet is refusing to marry Paris because obviously she's married to Romeo at this point. That whole scene where he basically tells her, you know, if you don't marry Paris, then I'll disown you. The character
on the streets.
the character gets very angry, and he portrays that extremely well. Like, you feel like he will actually do what he says he's going to do. And so Amanda, you should really...
I do. I will go back and I will rewatch it.
Yeah, and then you gotta tell me what you think about it.
Because that is one of the best scenes, I think, of the Baz Luhrmann one too, is the whole, father-daughter thing when she's like, no thanks. And he's like, excuse me, that actor I feel like did a good job of the Capulet father. He was portrayed as like a mobster, as these two families kind of are, which I was like, interesting. I'm a mob person. I really like mafia, yakuza stories. So I was like, ooh. And to have them plaguing the streets, that seemed more appropriate for like a gang type thing. But like the father of the Capulets is more prominent than the Montague father is. So the actor who played him in the Baz Luhrmann film, I think, did a great job portraying as like the quintessential like mob boss.
Bring
but also
me my
like,
long sword. Oh.
He felt very Godfather-esque
Yeah.
in a sense, where he was just a big guy, had a beautiful daughter looking to marry him off to, Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Of all
Paul Rudd was
people.
great.
Of all people.
Paul Rudd, the never-aging
Yeah.
individual. But, he got so angry in that scene when Juliet's like, no thanks.
Yeah.
And I love that because he actually, got physical with her. And I was just like, oh my God, throwing her around. He threw Jessica Lange, too, for the record. I was about to be like, don't touch my girl like that.
And, Daniel Lewis, who portrays Lord Capulet, got in Haley Steinfeld's face and was yelling and all that other stuff. So, he portrayed that entire scene very, very well, which is why I'm telling you.
I hope she got semi-traumatized, because that meant that was a good actor.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
Traumatized in the sense that, wow, he got really into character.
I was gonna say, because I unfortunately I couldn't watch the movie, but I've seen enough of it that I can kind of talk on it. I watched the scene where Paul Sorvino, who plays Lord Capulet, or he's not called Lord Capulet, he's called something else.
Wait, I just call him Lord Capulet just because I can't find his
Sorvino.
1st name.
We'll call him Don Capulet since he's a mobster.
Well, he in the play he is just Lord Capulet.
Yeah, no, but I thought in the movie they changed it a little bit. Like
they did give them names. And
Yeah.
it's in these little character
they
introductions
have-
at the bottom.
Oh, his name is Fulgencio. That's very
Because they're all
Italian.
Italians in Miami
Fulgencio.
or wherever they
They're
are.
I think they're down in.
There we go.
Yeah, I think they look like they're either in Florida or.
It looked like Miami. I was like, home.
I'm pretty sure it's Cali.
I think it's
Cali?
it's
They're
Cali.
definitely filming in California.
I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go to that location just because it looks so weird, and I'm just like, it looks so
I've been
cool.
to Venice Beach. It's an interesting place.
What does interesting mean?
Other dancing ladies in
I
the
don't
street.
know. Like, you just walk along. Sometimes there's this old guy singing the Doors. Sometimes there's like a dude dressed as like a goat demon walking around.
Oh, see.
It's wild.
That
That boardwalk area, you see some nuts things.
That is not what I thought you meant by interesting.
There was one booth where you could play chess, and if you won like a creepy looking doll. And
Yo, haunted dolls!
I would not invite that into my home.
No.
So Venice
Start pulling
Beach
some
clearly,
Exorcist shit on.
clearly the place to be.
Yeah. So going back to that scene, the way Paul Sorvino played it, at one point his wife tries to intervene and he slams her basically against the door. And I liked the way Jessica Lange afterwards, when she says the line,
Speak
basically,
not to me,
I am
for I'll
done
not
with
say
you.
word. Oh yeah.
But the way she played it, it was almost like, because like Paul Sorvino literally just like chucks her when she tries to intervene, he throws her against the door. And I guess the assumption also is that this is not the first time he's been violent.
No.
So like her face has just this devastation of basically where she's resigned herself. And I almost thought if she played it as shock too, because literally he slams her against that door as he like drives Juliet like against the banister. So it's definitely, while the other scene in 2013, I think the actor definitely captured the anger. Paul Sorvino, he has a more of an edge, almost like, which kind of makes sense if he's playing a mobster, that he's this close to basically almost maybe even killing her.
Well, he does say in the speech, it's like, I would like, give you to my friends. I would have you on the streets begging for like your life and stuff like that. He has no problem because in Romeo and Juliet, you have two noble households, and the fact that she just denied the ability to marry a prince and get, her life would basically just be luxury.
Set up. She'd be set up.
She'd be set up for life, and her family would be set up for life.
Yeah.
And
where's the fun?
They would also have a step up on the Montague family,
right,
as well. So the fact that in the beginning, whereas he was very like protective of his daughter, and he was like, I don't think I want her to get married yet. She's still, a bud. Like, she's still young. She's new to this world. And so, but, Paris is all like, yeah, but...
Scheming Paris.
I want you, girl.
Scheming Paris.
But, I feel like they are very loving parents in the sense, but at the same time, the fact that, he set this all up and she's just like, nah.
Well, and also too,
it makes her ungrateful.
Right, and also too, if you look at it from when this was written, what the historical context of it, a daughter does not disobey her parents.
No, not at all.
You don't say no to your father because your father has complete and utter control over your life, and he can disown you, toss you out on the streets, and you won't have help from anybody.
Women
in the
were
family.
not dealt a very pretty hand during that time period.
No. So, and even her mother wouldn't have any power to stop it. So,
hence why she tells her flat out, she's like, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
I can't save you.
Yeah.
In this whole situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very apropos for the time period the play was written in.
Yes.
Simona, what's your favorite version of it?
I'm going to go with the 2013, only because Laz Berman, I appreciate what he was trying to do. And looking at the behind the scenes, I really do. I appreciate his use of the original text, but he's a little too crazy for me.
That's what I like.
And I know that was the whole intent.
chaos.
It's supposed to be over the top, but it becomes too much for me. Like, I was watching the scene when Juliet's mom is calling for her, and I'm like, oh my God, is this woman on drugs? And she's going, Juliet, and there's like that long echo, and then it pans out, and then pans back in. And I think also the quick movements of the camera, like, we're zooming in, now we're zooming out.
It's hectic.
It's a little too much.
Honestly, I prefer that approach.
I feel like I'm gonna move this way.
Okay, I prefer like Boz's like super wacky approach more in like a Shakespeare setting than I do in like Moulin Rouge.
I love that.
Yeah, and I know that I think Baz Luhrmann I'll move back while I'm okay, because I'm not sure if they'll like
Swerving.
and I know Baz Luhrmann was inspired by Bollywood, because a lot of Bollywood's not every Bollywood film, but a lot of them, they are known for being very over the top, huge musical numbers, bright colors.
He's just creative.
4-hour-long movie.
Amazing costumes, yes. So I understood, and what I did like too is one thing that really helped to sort of ground the setting for the 96 is that the narrator, so the play starts off, and one thing I never really paid attention to, but when you hear the prologue, you already know this is not going to end well. Like the prologue.
Yeah, no, it tells you straight up this is a tragedy.
They tell
Get
you
ready.
several times throughout the entire play. And Mercutio's like, no.
Yeah, but I like that in the 96 version, it's told through a news reporter. Mm-hmm. And Baz Luhrmann basically said, I couldn't try to ground this in reality and not have it done that way. And especially in the 90s, there was also that MTV culture.
Yep.
That's when I got me scared. The news culture, like not social media. Social media wasn't really around that time. But like I think back to like, for anyone who remembers the whole feud, like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, like warring pop divas. That's how we got our fix. Like MTV was like spilling out the drama, so it makes sense that you're gonna get this drama from a news reporter. So I liked how he did that. It makes sense versus if you see someone walk out and address the audience, it wouldn't have been the same thing, you know? So I liked his attention to detail. I also love how the Montagues have their own costumes. So like the Hawaiian shirts are their costume.
Except that's only it's funny too because they're only worn by like his cousin Romeo and his little gang of his little stooges on the side versus his parents who are like, stop.
Well, I guess
stop embarrassing. He's wearing a suit. I think his mother is one of the newscasters.
Yeah. But I guess it makes sense because they're the rebellious ones. They're the hotheads that Lord Montague is constantly rein in.
Montague's telling, literally just sitting there, what's Romeo up to? And they're like, he's just being sad again. And he's like, okay, I'll just leave him alone.
but I also think that goes to show though that I think if their parents, Juliet's parents seem very involved in her life, which I guess makes sense because she's a woman. She's the girl.
Virtue
so they're very involved. Whereas Romeo, it's almost like, oh, he's depressed. Oh, he's flitting from one thing to, oh well, he'll learn. And I think that's part of the.
Yeah,
but still, even though he's a boy, you still have a responsibility to him. And I think his parents sort of dropped the ball.
No,
they didn't care.
Listen, Amanda, I'm not talking about historical accuracy. I'm talking about as a parent.
All their parents suck. All their parents suck. Any of these movies, even though the Capulets pay attention to the Juliet more because she's a lady, they still couldn't figure out that, in the Baz Luhrmann one, he literally sneaks into her bedroom in the middle of the night and, they do their thing. And then he leaves the next morning. And then she goes to church and she's like, I'm going to go do confession. And they're like, I would have been like, didn't you already do confession? She would have been like, well, yeah, but... And
you can never confess your sins too many
times. And then she gets married.
Yeah, she's being
Who didn't hear about this? Yeah. How secretive, because in the Baz Luhrmann one, it was really funny because it's a big church and there's all those little choir kids. They saw the wedding. Yeah. Who's not to say one of them can't be bought off and be like, yo, why is the church closed today? The church is never closed.
I guess they just know snitches get stitches.
Clearly this movie is a ride or die. But it's their parents suck.
Yeah.
Their parents suck.
And I was also thinking too, when Juliet's nurse, and I admit her character kind of annoyed me when I read the play. She was funny at points and she said a lot of sexually inappropriate things to Juliet. I know she was trying to prep her, but still.
Well,
nurse was more of a mother.
The nurse is more of a mother to her than her.
She definitely is, and for that she deserves some.
Normal.
But that's normal for the time period that this
Yeah. Where was I going with this? Oh, when she basically tells Juliet after Tybalt has died. Spoiler. So Romeo,
you've read it.
kills Tybalt. He's on the run. Essentially, he's in hiding. Juliet is grief stricken.
Banish it.
Can that word pop up every time we say it? Banish it. And the nurse says, I promised you a husband for tonight. So, she gets him. They consummate. My question was, though, she could not have had that much privacy. Like, I was thinking about it. Like, did the nurse, like, stand guard to make sure no one else passed by to check on, say, hey, mistress, how are you doing? Like, how, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, how does that work?
That's true. That's definitely a plot hole.
Because that's what I was thinking that in the back of my mind. It's like, how does this work?
So
they didn't have a sock on the door
house
situation.
Is huge, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, as we have previously discussed, parents don't parent their kids. So
yeah, but there would have been servants, right?
Not at that late hour. They would have been in bed doing stuff. They would have gone home. I mean, they
servants get to sleep too.
Yeah.
Only people who will be awake are like the guards, maybe.
Yeah, and they would have been outside.
And we've already proven throughout this entire movie that he can sneak past the guards at any time.
Exactly.
I guess love gave him wings. And I wanted
to... It was probably pretty quick.
You mean lust gave him wings? That's what it is.
Two teenagers, you know.
Well, technically, in the time that this was written, and this is always the big controversial aspect of Romeo and Juliet, was the age.
So, Romeo and Juliet were dealing with very tough circumstances, but can I give a shout out to Friar Lawrence?
Yo, Friar Lawrence.
True G.
I love his character so much, especially in the 2013, and the other one is I'm assuming is the other version. Is he like a drug dealer?
Yeah, he's a chemist in that one.
Okay,
he's
so
a chemist.
So I guess same diff, because this friar does the same thing.
Yeah, he gets you herbs.
But I love
when
how
the person who gives him the poison is an actual chemist. The father just says, "I kind of know a guy."
Yeah, but
he's not really pushing anything.
No, but what I love about Friar Lawrence is how done he is with Romeo's like BS. Like I love when in the film he legit slaps him, because this is after Romeo has been
a manhole.
No, banished. I was hoping you'd say banished, but
banish.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So and he's crying because he was kind of basically saying, death would be kinder. I'd rather be dead, not banished. I'd rather be dead. And then Friar Lawrence just slaps him.
Yeah, he does.
And he goes like, "Wake up! This is a blessing. You can which is true, because if you up and die, then Juliet. This is after they've been married, and he's been banished. But and I love how he just slaps him. He's like, "I'm done with your nonsense. Like, wake up, man up, grow a pair, and let's proceed with what we're going to do next." But I was just thinking too, had they succeeded and no one had died,
had communication not have been so terrible,
but
had the novice not get stopped at a plague house and miss Romeo completely,
had the UPS only delivered it one more time.
Oh yeah, in the 96 version, I know he mails him something, but how does it get lost?
It's because Romeo's not home because he's too busy pining in the middle of the desert. He goes and does like a Jared Leto, and he's not home. And they're like, "We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty," and he's just not home.
Okay. Which is great, which is a great use, because in a modern day and age, how do you get a package? It gets delivered, so...
And it stays there.
And it's,
To relate it to the teens that I'm sure are watching this, in Euphoria, they do the shout-out scene with Jules in the pool, dressed as Claire Danes from Romeo and Juliet. Yeah.
I mean, those wings in that outfit was so,
it's in the Halloween episode.
Halloween episode. Is that season 1 or 2?
Season 1.
Season 1, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And I guess friendly drug dealer looking out for our protagonist.
Oh yeah.
Rue would be Romeo, and Fezco is Friar Lawrence.
God, that show hits on so many levels.
you see, I like how the drug dealer taking care got your like that's so exciting. But me trying to talk about historical marriage, like it doesn't matter. It's not good in any situation. I think there's a little bias here.
Look here, we're trying to be educational and information.
I like it. Pulling it all comes together in this show. Now all we gotta do is bring in Twilight somehow.
Oh no!
Oh.
I will bring up Twilight because in the first, for all you tryhards out there that will remember the first movie, no, it's the second movie, because that's when the two lovers are torn asunder by circumstances.
Because Edward's a pining butthole. He's moody.
And they're reading R&J, and I admit the direction is not too subtle, where you see what is her name? Bella is sleeping, and she has the R&J book right by her pillow. To like really hit the message hard that this is an R&J kind of deal.
Except I don't want them to have a bad ending.
Yeah. But they get torn apart. Bella gets depression, tries to kill herself a few times, because
doesn't work.
And the reason why she wants to kill herself because every time she attempts it, she sees a vision of Edward. So she wants to get that close just to be able to see him. It is true
I don't
love.
wish
There's a lot of weird
so boring.
psychology
I
in
hate
Twilight.
that. I had to read that.
And she's a 17-year-old. He's 107 or 110. How old is he?
I don't know.
He's a gajillion years old.
I don't care anymore.
He's been around.
So that's a Romeo and Juliet kind of retelling there. I brought it together. It's come full circle.
So,
and
since we're still on Romeo and Juliet, and since I think a lot of, not just the viewers, but I think our own first experiences of Romeo and Juliet was in high school.
Yeah.
How was your time with Romeo and Juliet in high school? How many times did you have to
I read
read?
Romeo, ever the part of Romeo.
Nice.
It rocked, yeah.
I disliked
Juliet?
Romeo and Juliet.
Was she a nice person?
She was. She
Okay.
was nice, yeah.
Shout out Joe's Juliet.
I remember my experience of Romeo and Juliet. My teacher we got the book and he actually played it on a CD so we can listen to it as we were silently reading it to ourselves.
That's the kind of teacher I would be.
Yeah.
Here, guys, read to yourselves.
Quiet time.
I'm gonna go watch
YouTube in the
Euphoria.
But you should have. But you'd have to explain it. Like I never liked Romeo and Juliet because I thought they were just morons, to be really honest. And I know they're supposed to be young, and they're supposed to be. They're still stupid,
All
and they're
kids are stupid, I
and they're
agree.
supposed to be in love or whatever. But I liked Amanda's point about how Romeo was just lusting. I never read it that way.
I didn't know that until my first semester in college.
They hit on that in high school for me. Yeah.
They didn't do that in mine. We just kind of read it and we kind of went through it and they were like, "Oh, what'd you think about these people?" And we were like, "Okay, cool." And they were like, "Okay, done." But
I remember they really hammered home the whole Pilgrim dialogue because they were just to be like, get it, it's about sex, guys. Books can be about sex sometimes.
You see,
is that what she said? Books can be about that sometimes.
No.
You see, that's how innocent I am because I did not. I mean, I understand that Romeo is attracted to Juliet. Like that part didn't fly over my head. That's not what I'm saying. I understand what's going on.
Basically saying that so she talks about the saints.
Yeah.
And how when you go and you pray to the saint statues, you're not supposed to like touch, but you can get close. You're supposed to kiss them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
really?
what you would do back then when it came. That's why if you look at a lot of literature back then, a lot of Bibles, you'll notice that certain pages have a lot of water damage because people literally like just kissed a certain page and they were like, "That's cool."
I did not know
It's
that.
gross, I know. Because think about the diseases back then. You're just kissing a book. But they would have like iconography in there and they would kiss a certain part of the book constantly.
You know you can get that one weirdo that like licks it too. You know what
It's
I mean?
what it is. I did a class on, the pages and like, stuff like that of old like texts and stuff like that. And they showed us all these pictures of all these damages. Like, yeah, you see that damage right there? It's because people would the text would be gone. The ink is gone. They kissed it too many times, and you're just like, somebody's sloppy.
The damages on old manuscripts are so fascinating. I had a professor who for medieval studies, and she told us all about how just like certain words sometimes you'd see like it would be censored out, and like it's pretty crazy, and you just learn a lot through just like what damage has been done to this and why.
One time I went to the museum and I could actually see the guidelines that the person had written for himself so he could write straight. I thought that was amazing. And another thing is funny, like a shout out to cats. You know how like you're typing and your cat goes on your keyboard? Well, it turns out cats in medieval times did the same thing. There's a manuscript with cat paw prints all over it. And I was just thinking, can you imagine? First of all, it took so long because they're so beautifully written and illustrated. Can you imagine you're halfway done, you sit back so satisfied, and your cat goes, "Not today," and just like walks right
Phineas,
over.
how dare thee!
Yeah, you're
Just
some
throws him out the
poor
window like a
monk. You've
Monty
been
Python
working on
object.
one manuscript for 20 years.
It's like, this took me my entire lifetime.
Yeah, like I wonder what happened to that cat afterwards. Like I really would love to know like what happened. But yeah, but going back to RNJ and other versions, because I'd forgotten about this version, Romeo Must Die with Aaliyah and Jet Li. And since you mentioned lack of chemistry, they were talking about how there was really no chemistry between Jet Li and Aaliyah.
Yeah, I can see that.
But that was a nice one because they were like the two warring families.
Another really great version that I enjoy watching, even though it's a kids movie, is Romeo and Juliet. When they're garden gnomes and they're on separate gardens as neighbors, and
does it end well?
it does end well.
Okay, no one dies.
It ends with a brutal gnome murder.
I'll throw in another rendition that was pretty good. So there's an anime version of Romeo and Juliet called The Sea Prince and the Fire Child. That was done in 1981, and it was done by the people who did Hello Kitty. It's getting a lot more buzz now, but it's like a very big fantasy retelling of the whole thing, and it's got like little sea nymph things and like little fire fairies, and it's super cute.
They ride like winged horses and
it's very fantastical.
There's a tree. It's a tree that they all like. Juliet has to be given back to the tree, and
it's very cute. It's very sweet.
The same one, because there's another anime that's a Romeo and Juliet as well, and they ride winged horses, but they're like, I thought that was the one you were gonna say. I forgot.
There's an anime series called Romeo x Juliet.
Yes,
we got the manga for it here, and it was a very interesting rendition where Shakespeare was actually involved in the whole thing, and Juliet was more of a tomboy-esque character than. That was a very good rendition.
I like that one. That's the one that I thought you were talking about too.
No, I think about that one. I think it's really good. You can still get the manga. It's not as good as the anime because it came after.
Yeah.
And we had it here, and I think we actually have the anime here at the library still. But it's a very good rendition of it. Very different, very new.
Yeah.
Still set in a fantasy world where it's forbidden. So.
Yeah.
So were you Team Britney or Team Christina?
Team neither.
No, but like back then.
Back then?
Both, yeah.
I was neither. No.
I was a Christina fan.
I think I was more.
More so?
I didn't dislike either. I think I leaned more towards Christina.
I had both their first albums and their second ones following. I had like a bunch of.
I think I lean more towards Britney musically. Yeah. I don't know. She really put out some.
I didn't like the nasal.
Stuff.
She put out some bangers.
Well, unfortunately, Britney Spears, because that's one of the things, they actually ruined her voice. Because if you listen to her when she was younger, she had a better voice. In order to compete with Christina, they had her change her singing style, which damaged her voice.
Along with Christina has range.
Yeah, but
she can sing.
Yeah, but Britney Spears, her voice was not like Christina, but her voice, had they permitted her better vocal training and had they permitted her to actually use her full voice, she probably, I think
the damage probably wouldn't have been
exactly, because if you listen to her when she was younger, she had a vocal range. She sung very well, but because she had to compete with Christina and they wanted to differentiate the two sounds, they made her sing like in that baby nasally voice, But I always loved Britney, and not to get too far off the Save Britney thing. I remember the whole, leave Britney. I think she's been through a tremendous amount, and the industry used and abused her. But the reason why I brought up the whole feud was because since '96, like, it's emphasized by that, like, it's not emphasized. It's what's the word I'm looking for?
You can do it. I believe in you.
Oh my God! Influenced by that MTV 90s kind of culture. That's why I brought up the whole Christina Britney Spears feud, because you forget a lot, but when I was younger, that was the biggest thing. Like, everyone was comparing Christina to Britney. So
it's because it came out and there's always a rival. There was a rival boy band. There was always like a rival punk band.
And I don't think they disliked each other. I think they were actually like cool with each other.
No, yeah, they
were
didn't.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Yeah, they were
people.
Yeah.
The same with Justin Timberlake. They were. He was with them too.
Carrie Russell too.
Yeah.
House of Mouse.
Yeah. I feel so bad because Ben's not here, so I don't want to like end anything. Is he?
We're not done talking about Romeo and Juliet.
Christina Aguilera sung that Mulan song, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Mulan, John. That was good stuff.
What I will say, because I remember when she sang it the first time, I almost cried listening to her because they brought her back to sing that song. And I was like, oh my God, the nostalgia feels when she started singing. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I still don't like Christina Aguilera. And I can do without Britney Spears.
Are you gonna sit here and act like "Toxic" isn't one of the hardest pop songs?
Have you seen the guy on TikTok who does like 80s versions of pop songs? His is hitting. He did "Toxic." It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
I like "Toxic." That's a good song, and I like her.
Britney Spears. That song's dope.
No, that song is really nice. I also like
made
her.
Me cry when I was little.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
She's a star.
Yeah.
Just like Juliet. Brought it together.
There we go.
God.
I remember the music video for that one.
Pink is better than both.
Pink is great.
Yeah.
Pink is great.
I
Pink
don't
was in
think
a
you
league of her own.
rival.
Yeah, I think Pink was good too.
It's so funny because a lot of people assumed that Pink was African American, but I can understand because when she first came out, her image changed completely. They started her off with a more R&B image, and she in the song where she goes, "There you go," like that video. I think it's called "There You Go," the song or whatever. And she has really short pink hair, and she was a little tanner. And I remember when I first saw her, bless you, I thought she was a light-skinned black one. I was like, oh. And then after I was like, oh, she's not black? But it's so funny because Pink was like, I never claimed I was. And, like, that's part of the culture where, like, you know, But I honestly thought she was black, and a lot of people thought she was black, too. And then when she decided to change, they was like, oh, she's not. But I remember her image changed dramatically, like, when they first promoted her, and she hated that era. Like, she says she wants to forget that era, like it never happened.
Well, because
when I was
the
in
music...
middle school, she got the party started.
Yeah.
And all those middle school socials.
Oh my God.
Kids losing their minds.
Yeah.
Drinking
Too much punch.
Do you remember?
Get the light sticks
Do you remember that duo TATU? Those two women
Tattoo?
were
the ones that got
because-
extremely like banned. I think they were actually banned in Russia.
But what I love about 90s and 2000s culture was prior to Instagram, this is how we got our like social media. Because you know the whole thing where, are they together? Are they not together? And I love how everyone was trying to figure it out if they were really dating or not, but it ended up just being this gimmick because I guess lesbians sell. So like they were like, no.
That was the thing during the 90s. It was like you had celebrities, you had stars that started off being innocent, like Teeny Bop.
Yeah.
You know, this is where the teens are spending their money, like that Disney movie Turning Red with the concert with the guys at the end. You're ravenous. We're ravenous. We read the teen beats and we want the hot people.
What Disney movie are you talking about?
Turning Red?
Yeah,
The new
because
one where she turns into
because it's
panda?
set in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So there's a boy band, and they have a whole backstory for that boy
four
band.
towns, but there's 5 members. I love that they bring that to the attention. It's like, why are there 5 guys if it's called 4 towns?
But wasn't there an actual band that had like a number that didn't actually reflect the number of bandmates in the band? They probably didn't last that long.
It's probably one of
Two of them
Simon
were
Cowell's
siblings.
creations.
No, I think it
a-
was earlier.
Oh, which one? Not Tattoo.
No. It was an actual boy band.
98 Degrees.
I thought
Stop
that
it.
was.
With Nick Lachey
They were not 98.
married Jessica Simpson
And then divorced her.
and then divorced her and then made a baby album.
He made a baby.
He did an album of like children's songs for his children, and you could buy it. Yeah, I worked at a Toys R Us where everyone wanted that CD for some reason. They were like, "Do you have the Nick Lachey?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
For some reason.
For some reason, he just on the cover like just nice, and you're just like, I know what you've done.
And I remember the whole thing talking about, since we're gonna, and I'm gonna bring this back to the whole purity and them being concerned about Juliet's virginity. I'm bringing it back. So with
Bringing
this
the
analogy,
Trying to.
the whole thing about Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson, like with their whole virginity thing and the fiasco that the media made out of it, like the big deal.
They were like the power couple.
That was Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake.
No. It was Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson, because like the whole thing, she basically said, I'm gonna remain a virgin until my wedding day, and then they filmed her wedding, and her pastor said, she can wear white today because she dedicated herself to God, and she started crying. And then they made the music video because her.
I remember the music video.
Yeah, and the father was like, and her father was a creep, and it's going back to Juliet because creepy fathers worry about the daughters. I'm bringing it back, and he was like, well, she's married now, so I guess she can talk about sex with her husband. I mean, I guess it's okay. And I remember sitting there thinking, and is it any of your business, even if she is? You know?
Yes.
her dad was a major creep. Like, there were things off about her father to begin with. So, because the way he spoke about the daughter was very inappropriate.
Dads, am I right?
So bringing it back to dads and Romeo and Juliet, the dad and Juliet. See, I'm bringing it back. There's a connection there.
Simona, you brought up earlier about the will they, are they together, are they not dynamic? I think the best example of that is the White Stripes. Jack and Meg White. They were ex spouses, and they claimed to be brother and sister just to throw people off.
Yeah.
Hysterical.
Really? Yeah.
I never believed that for a second. I was like, I know what you're up to.
It's so funny.
And then now it's just Jack White.
See, but that was the brilliance of that era.
Yeah.
You had these gimmicks. In the absence of social media, you had to make your own fun. Because I remember all the gimmicks with certain stars, like, are they dating, are they not? I didn't remember the one with, sorry, what are they called again?
The White Stripes.
White Stripes. I didn't remember that.
It's really funny.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Mid 2000s.
Yeah, like 2000s indie rock.
Yeah.
Well, I was around in the early 2000s, high school.
I'm sure if you heard a couple songs, you would recognize.
You would know the
Seven
song.
Nation Army.
Yeah.
Seven Nation Army is like their quintessential song.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. I feel so bad. Like, we're waiting for Ben. I don't know. I almost feel like I don't know what to do. No, what?
Ben is here in spirit.
Oh, he is. No, is Ben coming?
He was
I don't
supposed
know.
Yeah, I
it's,
mean-
it's 2:54.
Yeah, I think.
We can call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know. Sorry, Ben. But you didn't
Alright,
make
so
it in
I
time.
guess this is time for last licks.
You're just like Romeo. You didn't make it in time.
God.
Didn't make it.
Oh, God.
You got the mail too late. Anyways, so last licks. Are there any other renditions? You guys have book recommendations, maybe, for different
You know,
titles?
there's a play actually by what's his name, Shakespeare.
Really?
You can check it out. Yeah. And I remember in high school we had the version of the play where it gave you the old English and then the modern translation right next to it.
I was
too.
a nerd and I did not like that.
Shakespeare.
Didn't like what?
I didn't like the No Fear Shakespeare stuff.
They
where
did
we
that later
translated
on when
for you.
I was doing it. They only did it in my college because growing up, I had to read the text. They were like, "You're going to try to understand it now," and I'm like, "Yes."
I did that because Joe mentioned, like, I did that in college. And by the time I already had read Romeo and Juliet like 5 times practically. My teacher was like, that is cheating. And I'm like, it has the original text. I've already read this play. I was like,
I
chill.
hate to say it. I'm with your teacher.
Sometimes it's very difficult because, and I will recommend this to all viewers, as my college professor said to me, and I do believe it to this day, when Shakespeare came out with a play, it wasn't written. It was done in 5 days, and it was just performed the way that it was. And the text that we have is all a contribution of the actors and the stagehands and people who, like, you know, worked on the play. He never wrote a single thing down.
Yeah, the thing is that when theater started to become more of like this high culture thing for the very wealthy in the 19th century, that's when we get the first folio of Shakespeare's written
Titus
works.
Andronicus,
Yeah,
his first one that
and
people...
it's all written down. So
So,
yes.
as all Shakespeare plays, just to finish the thing, it can be very difficult to read Shakespeare, as Shakespeare was not meant to be read. It was meant to be watched. So I know here at the library, like, I honestly recommend watching a play version. You can find them on YouTube, and you can find them on Amazon Prime, which is, like, if you subscribe to this.
Probably even Canopy, I bet. if you
Probably,
Yes,
yeah.
Canopy.
Please check out
Yes.
Canopy.
There are a few
Canopy.
plays on Canopy.
There are graphic novels that we carry here at the library. We have a couple for Romeo and Juliet, which are fantastic in my opinion. They're a good way to really get in there. There's CDs. There's all sorts of graphic media you can look at.
I also, when I went to London my senior year in high school, we visited the Globe Theatre. Yeah, visited the Globe Theatre.
I hear it's really
and
tiny.
It is. It is. Everyone crammed, and anyway, in their gift shop, I got their The Tempest and Romeo and Juliet in graphic novel form.
And another thing about graphic novels, because this is important too, because I actually had a girl, she came in and she needed to read, I think it was Macbeth, and she was having a hard time, and I said, okay, well, your teacher is going to be explaining this to you, and she was like, no. I'm like, okay. So I said, her mom was with her, I said, oh, we have some graphic novels. The minute I said graphic novels, the mom was like, no.
Send them to me. Send them to me.
But I said, I'm going to show it to you. I said, this is the play unabridged. I said, so it has the text. I said, but the image will give context and help her understand.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you're right. I said, I know I'm right. and I was like, it's okay. You know, graphic novels are good. I said, it'll give her context. She'll understand what she's reading. She's going to enjoy it. And she eventually took it. You would have been proud.
Librarians know best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Graphic novels, do not fear them, for they are literature as well.
I had another teacher said, like, I want my kid reading. I want books.
I literally posted a thing
there
a while
are
ago
books.
of this panel from a bunch of manga where it's just text. Just text. Little tiny time. I'm like, when someone comes up and tells you that graphic novels aren't literature, just show them these images right here. But anyways, so shout out to some, I think, like, good learning things too that you can find on your own. I'm a fan of the overly sarcastic productions on YouTube. They do a really good job of making it funny, making it relatable, and also having cute little doodles. And it's a good way to at least get, like, the main theme of things going on in it.
Also, shout out to Thug Notes.
Thug Notes.
He has a YouTube channel where, like, he talks about Romeo and Juliet, and he calls the Montagues Romeos Homeos. Which is so funny. He does a good job, so shout out to Thug Notes. He didn't understand.
Yeah. So, I think we're going to end things here this week, unless anybody has another note on Romeo and Juliet that we have not covered today.
Nope.
All right. And to you all, have a great day, and we'll see you next week, continuing our Shakespeare discussion.
Talking about Macbeth.
Macbeth.
The Scottish play.
Double trial and trouble.
See you next week.
Bye.